Howdy and welcome back to episode 6 of Penny Cook's Mom's Cookbook, Comidas de mi Mom. So today we are going to do her WoHeLo chowder. So she has a notation here that says, remember, WoHeLo stands for work, health, and love. So 1 can of whole kernel corn drained, 1 can of cream style corn, 1 small onion chopped, and 1/2 pound of bacon cut into 1.5 inch pieces, optional 6 or 7 crushed saltines. Cook bacon till cooked but not crisp. Drain the fat, add onions, cook until transparent, add corn, heat, stirring often till it's heated through. If you want a thicker chowder, add crackers. Now, interestingly enough about this recipe is WoHeLo. Now, the only thing I can find about WoHeLo is that is like the equivalent of an Eagle Scout in the girls, of the Campfire Girls. Okay, so Campfire is now called Campfire. It's not the Campfire Girls anymore. But it's weird because this recipe is like the most non-Mexican recipe, I think, in the whole book. But I don't know all the story. I really don't. But the only thing I can tell you is that, follow me if you will. I had to write some stuff down because there's a lot. So follow me if you will. It is the early 1800s, okay? And colonization in the United States is going a little haywire. Mexico has just gained independence from Spain. The Spaniards are still sending over mercenaries and seekers of fortune and whatever. And amongst them is my great-great-great-grandfather Tofilio Ayón. And he gets to Sonora, Mexico, gets himself a little wife, and has himself a couple of sons, Facundo Ayón and Salvador Ayón. And so Facundo Ayón has another son by the name of Tofilio Para Ayón. And interesting about Facundo and Salvador is because they were Spanish colonials. They left Sonora, Mexico, and they came up to California because of the gold rush. And after everybody decided that the gold rush just wasn't worth it, they all settled and they did whatever they were going to do. And so the 2 Ayón boys got married to 2 California girls, also from a Spanish colonial family. And so consequently, because of that, because, you know, California now became part of, I don't know. People who study this stuff can tell you everything. But anyways, when I was a little girl, every time I went shopping with my mom, and I mean every time, okay, she would stop and have some rando conversation in Spanish with some person I had never seen before in my whole life. I had no idea who these people were. And they would just speak Spanish. And because we weren't encouraged to speak or understand Spanish, I had no clue what they were talking about. All I know is it sounded like a whole lot of chisme. And they would be all, me chiquita, you know, and they would just be talking and like, oh my God, you know. And my mom had this really, really nasty habit of she'd be talking in English, and right when she'd get to the juicy part, she'd switch into Spanish. And so we never knew what was going on. So anyway, so mom would have these conversations. And after she was done, I would be all, Mom, who was that? And my mom would say, oh, it was a cousin. And so I grew up thinking that I was related to like all of California, or at least half of it. But I don't know. But the truth would be known that, anyways, so Tofilio, my great grandfather, had 13 kids. And of those 13 kids was my grandfather, Cornelius. But anyways, end of 1800s, early 1900s, a couple of things happened with the Ayón clan that are rather significant. The first thing was they changed the spelling of the name. So the Spanish colonial name was spelled Ayllon, but with, I guess they just made it a little bit more gringo happy, and it was now AYON. And because of, you know, the two Mexican boys married, the two boys from Sonora but from Spain, married to the two California girls that were also, you know, Spanish background or whatever, they were given a whole bunch of land grants, and they were just given like the whole San Gabriel Valley, if not more. And so originally they called the town that they settled in Sonoraville, or Sonora Town, because everybody there was from Sonora. And then it was called Rocky Town, but that didn't quite stick, and so it ended up some dude named Irwin had like a ranch or something, and so the colonial California people just started calling it Irwindale. So by the time I came along, the only thing that was left of this land grant and all of this stuff about you know, the history of California, all that was left, hold on just a second. I'm making chicken for dinner. So anyways, all that was left was like about a half acre of land in Irwindale. So by the time coming along. But anyways, so something else very significant other than the name change in the late 1800s to the early 1900s was the Ione clan became Presbyterians. And I'm thinking this is where this all came along, because my mom used to talk about how back in the early part of the 1900s, so we're talking prior to 1940, actually up until the 1960s, 70s actually, you could leave school early for religious release. So the nuns would come and get the little Catholic kids for catechism, and then the missionaries that were working with my mom's family, I was actually baptized by a Presbyterian missionary. I just think that's the coolest thing. You know, it makes me think like I was growing up in the jungles of Borneo, but whatever. You know, it's not the case. But anyway, so, you know, it was colonial California. If you were Mexican, you were a Catholic. I mean, even when they got processed from Sonora into California, they went through San Juan Capistrano. But, you know, there was anything, a whole bunch of stuff was going on. So anyway, they became Presbyterians. And one of the things that they did was they took rocks from the San Gabriel River, which, trust me, there was plenty. And if you're ever down there on the 605 and the 210 interchange, I think it is, and you see the San Gabriel Dam recreational area, and you see that it's just nothing but rocks, yeah, you know, and my uncle and some others that I know of helped put that all together. But anyways, so they built this church in Irwindale for the Divine Savior Church, for the Presbyterian Church. And a couple of years later, right around the corner, they built a Catholic church. I don't know, but anyways, by the time I came along, half the clan was Presbyterian and half the clan was Spanish or Catholic, and it was what it was. So I went to Catholic church as often as I went to Presbyterian church, which in all cases was rare. But so I'm thinking that my mom learned this recipe in Presbyterian Bible study, Bible school, because that's what it's feeling like to me. Because WoHeLo, like I said, has to do with the Campfire Girls, and the Campfire Girls were the more inclusive group in because there was the Girl Scouts, but the Girl Scouts were kind of exclusive, so Campfire Girls were made to be inclusive, which means the little Mexican kids, I guess. Or I don't know, but anyways, I'm thinking that's where this came. So, okay, all that said, so we've got the recipe. We're gonna cook it up, and I'm gonna show you how it looks in just a minute. All right, be right back. Okay, so we have a nice hot pan here. We're gonna add the bacon. Now, interestingly enough, it's getting increasingly harder to find like a whole pound of bacon. So what I did was, this is a 12-ounce package of bacon, and I'm going to saute it up until it's soft but not crisp, and most of the fat has been rendered out. So see you in a bit. Okay, so here we have it. The bacon is mostly cooked, and I'm adding the onions. We're going to stir that up until the onions are translucent. Then we're going to add the corn, and that's going to be it. Okay, so our onions are in there. They're nice and translucent. The bacon is not super crisp, but I kind of like it a little bit crispier than my mom used to make it. We're adding the can of whole corn. We're adding the can of cream corn. I add a little pepper, but that's it. That's WoHeLo chowder, and I think it's just fine. Don't need to add any soda crackers like Mom said. And there you have it. So next week we are doing shredded beef for tacos or burritos. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Don't forget, I love you, and ta-ta for now.